Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome back to this cast that is Beyond All Reason. And today I am joined by the devilishly dashing man with a degree in dastardly deeds. It is none other than the Duelist. For this spectacular cast we have on the cards today, it's a 7v7 on, of course, the map Coombe Valley. And how you doing today, Duelist?
Oh, dude, I'm doing great. First time we've ever done a collab on Bar. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited and I'm having a good time. We're going to start with the team over here in the west, and we're going to start at the northern side of the map with player introductions. We have a pink Cortex player going by the name of Joysko. Then over to his north, we have ourselves a orangish pink kind of color, not sure what color this is, player going Armada by the name of Tella, and he's gonna tell us something. As we move down to the southeast for the white player going Cortex, his name is 661, and he is building himself a factory there. As the next player is a red Cortex player going, I think that's a bot factory, and his name is Deepak. And then we have up to the south of him, which is a weird sentence to say, a yellow Armada by the name of Tim
Eisner.
Time. It's Time. His name's Time now. As we have an orange Cortex going with a bot factory as well. His name is Pix Artist. And last but not least for Team 1, the 7th player on their team, a pink Armada going by the name of Tekla. So we have Tella and Tekla on the same team. We can move on to the second team. We're going to start in the south this time with the blue Cortex player. He is the server monkey of Bar, one of the grand developers of the game, and his name is Tifion. Then over to the northwest of him, we have a purple Cortex by the name of Monoclutter. Then over to the east of him, we have ourselves, of course, a light blue Armada, and their name is Valeria 7A. And then we're going to have ourselves a green Cortex by the name of Ani Dahara. And up to his northwest, we find the commander. It is an Armada yellowish green there, by the name of Lux. And then we're gonna have another light blue, a cyan, in fact, Armada by the name of Phalange. And last but not least for the entire game, a green Armada, and his name is Ram This. And with that out of the way, we can take a look at the map really quick, and we can defer to the Duelist. What do you think about Bar? Why haven't you casted it more? I haven't casted it more because I'm lazy.
Okay, so first off, what do I think about Bar? I've been pretty, I would say, forward in my praise of the game and its overall design, from sound to graphics. The reason why I haven't really casted it a whole lot is just there's fewer replays to choose from. That's mostly the biggest thing. As far as this map, we have pretty much every single player opening bots, which is what I would expect on a map like this. Bots are a little bit cheaper. You also have a lot of these really, really steep kind of cliff edges that are not traversable by vehicles. So going for spots gives you not only a little bit better efficacy with your early eco, but also a little bit more flexibility as far as how your units move around the map overall.
I agree. We do have different heat maps for what things can traverse. I don't know exactly how to enable them, and I think it looks kind of bad, so we're not going to do that. But, of course, one fun thing with Bar, if you're one of the FAF people, which a lot of you will be, is that different units can traverse different slopes and inclines all the way up to 90 degrees, I believe. Some units can, in fact, traverse a 90-degree incline. just climb up a wall. I think that's more of the kind of spider-looking bots that have a bunch of legs, but it's very cool. And another thing different from FAF that we're going to see is you see everybody spamming up these light laser towers. Usually in FAF, we'd be shaming people for so much PD, but here in Bar, it's commonplace as it's just a very cost-effective way to gain some territory control, and these players are going to be more than happy to hold on to large swaths of territory in that way. As we look at the map here, you can see that the overall kind of map control is pretty even. Everybody's just meeting in the middle. Tifion has had a very good start and has managed to get a little bit more territory than his opponent Pix Artist, which means he's going to be able to hold on to one more metal extractor than his opposition is at the moment. We also have these cliffs here where you're going to most likely see things that are indirect fire. Small artillery pieces, missile launchers, they go up here and they just wreak devastation down onto the land, and you also might see some form of sniping unit. Long-range units do very well up on these cliffs.
Yeah, so one thing I did want to point out is we do have Phalange in the north, went down to Jysco, or Joysko? Jysco. And that base has actually been given over to Ramthus. So Phalange bowing out of the game relatively early, even though his comm died, he wasn't going to lose his entire base, but did want to point that out. As far as the corners of the map, so we have a lot of open space in the middle, but the corners of the map are very important for this particular map. I've played it quite a bit, just because of the amount of metal extractors here and the opportunity for run-bys. The middle of the map usually gets fortified pretty heavily. From what I've seen, it makes it a little bit more difficult to advance. One of the big things that I've noticed is, if you think of Forge Alliance Forever as a little bit more like World War II, where there's some more dynamic movement of armies and units across a battle line, think of Bar as World War I, where both sides are going to dig in. There's going to be a very established line, and they're going to have to fight tooth and nail for every yard that they get.
I really like that analogy, and I really like that you're here. We also have some teching up the defenses here. Onidara going for a very early heavy laser tower. I don't know the exact name of it. In fact, let's just go ahead and check it as I'm still learning all the names. A Warden heavy laser tower. And he's going to be able to use that right now to just exert some control. His opponent, Deepak O, is currently building his own, but he's a little bit behind. I think they are out of range of each other, so it won't matter. Deepak really focusing on holding this high ground here in the center, and it's just a little bit of an interesting fight as they throw units back and forth. Also, yeah, as I said, I'm really happy to have you here. You're a little bit more experienced with Bar than me, and you're going to be able to explain things. I didn't even catch that commander blowing up. And if you're here for us to catch every little detail, just going to point this out now, we probably will miss a lot. We miss a lot in FAF, and FAF is our main game. This is Bar, but we've talked enough about FAF here. I know the Bar folks are probably annoyed by that, but you draw comparisons to what you know. And of course, let's just get on to this. A second Warden going to be going up for Deepak here in the middle. Just an intense point defense war going on here, and neither side quite able to push forward even a little bit. So Duelist very correct in saying that they are going to have to fight tooth and nail for each and every inch. You also have lines of these rocket bots going up, which are very good in this style of gameplay. They are able to outrange the light laser towers, and that's why we're seeing heavy laser towers come out.
Yeah, so the middle is important for both Onidara as well as Deepak. Mostly because of this geothermal plant that's in the middle. You can get a geothermal fueled plasma artillery set up in the middle, which has slightly higher fire rate, as I believe higher damage to the regular plasma artillery. So having that set up in the middle creates a really nice exclusion zone around the kind of middle desert, where it becomes very difficult to expand, denies a lot of mexes. So I think that's why there's so much fighting over what we would look at as just a source of energy in that middle area.
We also see a little bit of a yin-yang movement on the map, but it's not quite equal. Tifion doing very well over on this southern side. He's making his presence known, and he is really pushing forward. So is Joysko, of course, over on the northern side. But unfortunately for Tifion and his team, we have Timmy here, who has just kind of set himself up on this raised terrain that we were talking about very early on. Even set up a cheeky little radar there that'll be hard to get shot down, but it is going to get reclaimed by a by a build power turret there. Don't know the exact names of those. Need to start learning these names. A construction turret, which is very fun little interaction there. And right now, Timmy trying to bail out his ally, the orange player by the name of Pix Artist, who I think also lost his commander. I'm not seeing it kicking around over here, so, and I do see a decal on the ground where it looks like a commander may have died, so most likely gonna have that kind of parity where both sides lost a commander on each of the flanks, and that is gonna be that for now. In the east, or in the northern side of the middle, we have a large push now coming out from 661. He's trying to break the position of Lux. I don't know how well this is gonna go. What do you think, Duelist?
He's got quite a few of the aggravators in there. So the aggravators are the long-range rocket bots that are really, really good for sieging emplacements just like this with light laser towers. The thugs are frontline. He's going to pull back a little bit from the light assault bots or the pawns coming out from Lux. Yeah. But I think that this is an army that could displace Lux from this position if he pushes it hard enough, especially with the Centurions coming in from Tella in the back.
Unfortunately, though, for Tella, his ally does not decide to walk forward, so the Centurion's just going to be sacrificed there. It would be very good for Lux to try and get out. I can't remember the exact name of it. I think it was originally called Necros, to come out and start reviving some of these enemy units, since he seems to be stuck on pawn tech, and his opponents are building relatively expensive units in comparison.
Yeah, so for the Armada, those are the Lazarus. The repair, the repair, reclaim, resurrection bots.
Yeah, is one of them called a Necro, or am I remembering that from a completely different game? I played another game that had a very similar mechanic called Airmech.
Oh no, the other side is the Grave Robber, which is the Cortex. So that's the repair, reclaim bot for the Cortex.
Let me know down in the comments, anybody who has played Airmech, isn't the one that revives called the Necro? If I got that right, that is a throwback, because I haven't played that game in almost 7 years.
There's a hero called Necro in Dota 2.
Oh, so, I don't play Dota. I'm a fucking League degenerate. But, of course, we're seeing some artillery pieces, not a geothermal plasma battery, but I believe this is a plasma artillery, a pop-up plasma artillery, so whenever it's not engaging anything, it'll go right back down and get some defensive buffs. Not that there's going to be anything, there's going to be a lack of things to shoot in the near future.
Yeah, so it's mostly to help with, they do a pretty good job with overall point defense against higher tech units, because they have a pretty decent fire rate, and they do have a good range compared to the laser towers. And you can see some of the Tech 1 units now from Depaco trying to overwhelm. I don't know how well they're going to get on there, because we do have medium tanks there. So it should be worth noting that tanks and vehicles are overall stronger than bots.
But they are less. They're less mobile, but definitely have more. They generally have more damage, more health points. They're sturdier. They cost more, and so it's. I don't know if it's exactly resource for resource if they're better. I think it's probably pretty even, but they are so much more frontline, I would feel, than the bots in my experience.
Yeah, so in Valeri's position, or Valeri's 7A position, since he is fighting mostly in kind of the desert plains in the middle, it makes sense to go for bots. Whereas, for a lot of the other positions, or for vehicles, sorry, not for bots, just because of that higher punching power.
Yep, and right now we can see one of those vehicles about to roll off the line. Very cool models coming out from the bar team. Have to praise them on that. Just look at that thing. It's so many polygons and such nice textures. They told me they don't like me going this low with the camera, but doesn't it look so damn beautiful? I don't see why they're so worried about me showing low angle shots.
As Lux is also going to lose his comm in the middle, and we're starting to use it. Losing comms doesn't lose you your base or loses you the game, but it does lose you the ability to kind of control an area as well, because you lose access to the D gun. The comm does have a pretty good construction suite on it as well, and that's going to leave the middle open for Depaco to now start really putting some pressure onto. I believe that's not Lux's base, Omidara's base. Yes.
Indeed. And of course, right here, you can see that there is the tombstone and the rip there. Of course, there is a couple of different ways you can go about this. You can salvage it the way that this Weber currently is. And another option is you can actually revive these. Any unit in the game can be revived once. And the way Bar works is if you lose all of your commanders, you lose the game. So it is an important resource to track. But a lot of players do even opt to kill their commander themselves just because it's got so much reclaim value after the fact. And sorry yet again to anybody if I am missing comms dying. I'm just looking at whatever I find interesting. And hopefully, as I do more of these barcasts, I'll be able to catch things preemptively and get things going. But this game is very beautiful, and Lux definitely kind of just knocked out of this middle area. And earlier we saw a lot of fighting between Deepak and Onidara, and Onidara has just been ousted. So right now the Western team looking really strong as they've got set up on both of these cliffs. They've pushed Tifion back. The Western team overall just playing incredibly well and have pretty dominant map control, I would say. They're at the front gates of the main bases for some of these players already. A bunch of pawns, or these might be, yeah, these are indeed pawns, now making their way forward. Not going to achieve too much, but that little bit of constant pressure coming out from Temi going to be very good. We also have some missiles being launched from on high over here, out from these very beautiful arbiters. Also earlier, while you were talking about that commander dying, I saw some hounds out to the north, and I do love the look of the hounds. I think my favorite unit still is the sumo. I just love watching those little trash cans waddle around, but the hound is such a cool unit.
Yeah, the sumos definitely look like the Daleks from Doctor Who.
Yeah. I just love that they're basically a walking trash can with a gun. That's I haven't watched Doctor Who, so I have no idea what that reference is.
Somebody will in your comments section.
Yeah, yet again, another pop culture reference the Duelist brings up that I just don't know. It's just a running trend at this point.
This is.
And of course, here in the middle, another hound. It's about to meet a very sad fate. It's going to die to these oh so powerful, we saw them in my first cast, Sheldons. Sheldons and hounds, kind of the counterparts of each other, but I feel the Sheldon generally wins out on the trades between the two, from what I've seen personally. I think it might just be a slightly better unit, but these Sheldons are going to be very pivotal right now for Omidara staying in this game. They're going to give him so much kind of territory control and allow him to stay safe on these front lines. Also using some Fiends, these flamethrower units, to stand in front of them, just be a defensive line for those very important artilleries that walk around and cause so much pain.
So while we're at a little bit of a stalemate, I think, on the front lines, I did want to pull your attention to the eco.
Yeah, explain it to me a little bit, because I don't know how to read this eco tab whatsoever.
You're fine. So you can also click the statistics tab at the top if you want to show a visual representation. But mostly what I want to talk about is the fact that Deepak has pretty much all of these mexes in the kind of middle desert area. And that is, between that and the top half, that has resulted in a 20k lead in overall metal generated for the red team on the eastern side of the map, which is not insignificant.
Yeah, it does seem like that is contributing quite a little bit, and he's going up very quickly. But I would also say that Tekla, Timmy, and Joysko are really just putting a showstopper on economy, but Tifion right now is the richest player in the game. He's produced 50,000 metal. The closest to him is 37,000. So Tifion over here has also been ecoing up a storm, and it's starting to show as he's gaining territory back on this western side and has or southern side, and has a very, very large army now approaching the front lines and passing them. In fact, it may be able to get in here and start dealing damage on to either Pix Artist or Timmy very soon, because there's just so many units here and it doesn't feel like there's too much to stop them.
Well, he needs to be a little bit more careful with the Fiends, because if he groups them up too tightly, they will friendly fire themselves down. So It was good that he had them strung out a little bit in a line, but if he advances in a really, really large clump, then he's going to kill half of his own units with his own units.
I feel like the Fiend, when I have seen it, it's like you send those in before you send the rest of your army, just for the safety of not killing your own units.
Oh yeah, it's literally, again, going back to World War II, it's literally the Sherman with the flamethrower on it, meant to dislodge the Japanese.
Yeah, that is a terrifying unit, but also a very vulnerable unit, a very kind of finicky unit in the fact that, like, it kind of reminds me of sniper bots, but in reverse. It's very micro-intensive. It's something you have to pay attention to, or it hurts you.
Well, and you do have to pay attention to it. The problem is you can pay as much attention to it as you want, but if you have them in a clump, then they're going to kill each other no matter what.
Yeah, that's...
It's not really like a hold fire half of them, or... Well, splitting them up like this is a good move.
Yeah, and as I said, this is what I see very often. You see the Fiends thrown in first. They're just going to go in. If they die, they die. And then the stronger units are going to come in the back. And we can see some of those bots we were talking about, 90-degree inclines. Tifion going to show up with these beautiful little termites that are going to climb this wall and really just start to wreak havoc on the base of Pix Artist. There is, of course, a Sheldon sitting up here, but he's going to be in for a rude awakening when these termites just come right up this wall and start destroying his life and livelihood.
Well, and there is a prize at the top of that hill, and it is a Basilica, the long-range plasma cannon.
Yeah, that's going to be very important to take down. I don't know if I can see the range on it very easily. I can select it, but I don't have the range indicator. I'm sure that it hits pretty far out because it's firing at the moment. And currently those termites, they're getting in, they're starting to deal a lot of damage. Chain reaction! And Tifion really putting on a good showing here today, but his team on the northern side is struggling just as hard as the team on the western side is struggling on the south with him. But these termites getting a ton of value. Pix Artist may as well have been wiped off the map with this singular attack, and he's also trying to put pressure, or was at least, on to Timmy, but Timmy more able to weather the storm there. And with that, the entire base of Pix Artist goes down. A counter bot here, I don't know the name of this one. It is a Recluse showing up to kill off the termites. Very fitting, spider killing bugs. And of course, the termite's going to go in towards Timmy's base. He's sacrificing them. Going to get some damage down onto Timmy. Is Timmy going to survive this? Yes, just barely. Sitting on a cool 165 HP before killing off that last termite. And with that, we have a bit of a calming down of this situation. We also have a cloakable fusion reactor over here for Timmy, so it's very important he defends this area. I believe that does go nuclear when it dies.
Yes, very much so. That will wipe out almost his entire base. If it actually, it probably will wipe out his entire base.
We have multiple of them being built in the. I mean, they're in the main bases of these players, but they are pretty far forward. It feels for this map. I think I'd maybe want to. I'm a bit of a coward. I'd probably be building it closer back to my other teammates who are on those hills behind them.
You just build a bomb in your teammate's base, like, hey buddy, hope it doesn't get bombed. Good luck.
Hey, listen, I'm protecting you from all of the heathens at the gate. You can take this risk. We're starting to see air. I feel like air develops much later in the game in Bar than in the other RTSs of this style. Tifion, the first player to get heavily invested in air, and you can see his air wing just going back and forth across the map, trying to keep anything safe. And I do believe interceptors even can fire down towards normal ground units. I believe they are all multi-purpose, aren't they? Or am I wrong on that?
In Bar, I don't think so. In Total Annihilation, they are.
That's where I'm thinking of that from, because I've tried Total Annihilation a few times recently. I just can't get... The camera is too clunky for me. I cannot get over it.
Also too close. By the way, you have your favorite unit in the middle.
Oh, we do?
From Deepak.
A sumo! Oh, and this is another thing I love about them. Just look how much they just eats damage. I love it. I love the little trash can with legs, waddling around, having a grand old time. Unfortunately, though, seems as though it's on the losing side of this engagement so far. We also, of course, have these very fast-moving sprinters, avidly named, that are going to be able to run around. They're kind of like a high-tech version of a pawn or a what's the other one? Is it pawn and peewee?
Grunt.
Pawn and
or
grunt.
AK, if you're using Total Annihilation.
Oh, gotcha. And over here to the south, we have a large push now coming out from Deepak towards Mono Clutter, but Mono Clutter has been dug in and is looking like he's going to weather that storm just fine. Let's go ahead and look at the economies once more, as it does seem like none of these pushes are being successful. Overall metal produced, we're coming up past the 60,000 metal advantage currently for the Western team, and they're doing very well. In fact, they're the red team. Just realized they're all shades of red. The enemy team is green and blue. And of course, going to be very important to keep an eye on this economy as the game goes later. Tifion still doing amazing, has also dealt the most damage in the game, really putting on a showstopper so far.
Yeah, the 60,000, the 60,000. I almost said net worth lead. I've been watching a lot of the Dota 2 International, but the 60,000 lead in metal, if we want to put that into context, it is pretty much the value of, I believe it's the Calamity is the name of the unit. That's right, which is the rapid fire long range plasma cannon. That is essentially
a game enter
for the FAF peeps out there. It's a Scathis that never stops firing.
Man, we have got to play some more Bar. I need to get into it. The economy is so difficult for me. I think I've already talked to you about it. I just can't wrap my head around it, but it's so fun to watch, and I love just getting in here to the gnarly fights, and I love this camera that I'm able to use here. Just see all of these units do their thing and fire on each other.
Yeah, so I'm looking at a different camera, but I do have your screen share up, and the whole camera show that you're putting on right now, like, fucking nuts. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna hook up a controller for my next Barcast.
I will try and help teach you how to set this up. It is a bit finicky. It's just a bat file, and I ran it through a virus checker. It's fine. It's actually used pretty commonly. They just haven't fully integrated into the game for the Spring Engine. It's a general Spring Engine bat file. But
gotcha.
It is very, very nice, and it's very smooth. It's a bit awkward to get used to because you're not used to controlling an RTS camera with joysticks and buttons the way you do with a controller, but it's pretty intuitive. And of course, wow, what was that volley coming out from? Was that this one unit over here? It looks like we have a high-tech catapult heavy rocket bot. That thing firing away just volleys of missiles. That's like five artillery pieces by itself. That is crazy. Oh, wow. And Sumo's coming up on the front line, watching them just get in and stuck into a fight here. Just a beautiful scene going on between these players. The carnage is wonderful to watch.
Yeah, so Deepak now getting into the, I would call it Tech 3 space with the experimental gantry. That's where that catapult came out from. So we can expect to see some catapults coming out from him. I would also look for some Shivas as well as some Karganeths. Those are the kind
Karganeth
of
right
main
here.
battle unit.
We have a Karganeth.
What?
We have a Karganeth already on the field for him right here. 6-legged machine of doom with 4 large laser guns, it would look like, or some form of cannon. And that thing is just walking by. Man, I love the models in this game. They are so damn beautiful.
Yeah, so I think this is going to get out of hand pretty quickly for the blue team. They need like some vanguards, or I think it's the vanguard at least. Some vanguards, or a lot of. Oh, we can see them putting up tactical missile launchers in Ona Udara's base. So they need some of that, and or some long-range plasma artillery to be able to hit back at these things. But the storm is definitely coming, I think, for the blue team in the center at least.
Yeah, I really want to see what Tifion is going to do. He has some air engineers, flying engineers. Don't often actually see these in my experience. They are very fragile. And of course, he's over here. What is he building with these? It is a tactical missile launcher. That's probably what you were talking about a second ago. And of course, we have a bunch of termites. We've seen how powerful these can be. Timmy trying to rebuild on the corpse of the base of his ally Pixart or Pixartist. And we have a bunch more fiends coming out. Some of them hurting each other, but overall doing all right. We also have a few flying units out here, abductors, a stealth or heavy armed heavy transport. Doesn't seem like they're getting too much damage done. Seems like the transport's in faff. It's all bark and no bite with their guns.
So their primary use is around their EMP weapon. You can see that all these units are freezing in place every time that the electric transport fires.
Yeah, that electric effect we just saw on that fiend. In there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like ins and outs on this game with like weird weapon types, like EMP, as well as there's another one out there that's also interesting. But I've literally seen entire defensive grids shut down by EMPs, and then they just like walked into their base and destroyed them.
These catapults
They
on the
just
front line.
turned their base off.
Yeah, that's awesome. And these catapults on the front line, they're just slowly gaining territory. As you said, every inch being fought for. And these construction turrets just trying to repair everything as fast as they can, trying to keep those metal extractors up just a little bit longer to maybe give them a chance to get up their own kind of experimental tech. Also up here, saw something relatively interesting. We have one of the big boy point defenses, the Pulsar Tachyon Accelerator, a very powerful defensive option. And you can see that laser just coming out and annihilating pawns there. Also seeing one of those built in the middle now.
Yeah, I was about to talk about the middle. Luckily, Omidara did put up some of these Persecutor, the pop-up plasma artillery, so that's given him enough time to shove the catapults away for the time being. It's Deepak just needs to get a critical mass, though.
Oh my
and
lord.
He's focusing quite a bit on it.
Those missile launchers were huge just now. Those huge explosions just coming out. Another large explosion about to come out. Oof. Oh, that's huge. Launches coming out from ambassadors, stealth rocket launchers, really paying dividends here for Valeria. But still not seeing any other big robots out of anybody but Deepak O, who has had very dominant control of this middle for a while, and he's getting out quite a few now. We're looking at a lot of these Kanganeths, even a Shiva online, multiple Shivas in fact. Does seem as though, nope, he still has at least one catapult. I think he lost one of his catapults, unfortunately.
Yeah, so in the rear lines for the red team, they have a lot of eco. Need to start transitioning that though into something like experimental gantries, something like that. Like, I'd really like to see some.
Oh no, it's a disaster. He just lost Kanganeths to and some Shivas to just those ambassadors. That, I mean, we've seen ambassadors in another game do some crazy things, but man, that hurts real bad, those wrecks on the ground right now.
Dude, they're just on a diplomatic mission, man.
I mean, it's not about the money, it's about sending a message.
Yeah. So 661 currently has a Juggernaut near the end of its construction cycle in his base up towards the north. And he has a catapult on the front lines as well. And that could be... Juggernaut's pretty good at dealing with a lot of different units, has a lot of different weapon types, some rapid fire, some more alpha strike damage. And it looks like Deepak moving up to support that Juggernaut, ideally. So that might be enough to break the... they don't need to break the front lines of Amidara here. They just need to run past it into... I can't remember the player's name, but the base that's now vacated. Yeah, Valyria.
And it does seem like with this Juggernaut online and this hulking behemoth of a bipedal mech with many, many guns approaches the front lines, and Deepak being that tip of the spear going in before and softening up the defenses, that maybe, just maybe, this Western team has found a formula for success. But the Eastern team has done an incredible job this game of keeping their defenses strong and keeping their chances in this game alive, so we'll not count them out for sure.
Yeah, and so at this point, I think it comes down to the rear players. Like, the rear players need to start getting some heavy tech out the door. Some experimental gantries. We need to see some Razorbacks. We need to see some... blanking on the name of the other explosive bot.
Oh no! Timmy is falling apart with combination of this Basilisk and all of these mammoths and other units coming out now from Mono Clutter. He just lost his commander, and now this southern side is just completely collapsing for the Western team. They need to push on the northern side, or they need to come down here and deal with this, because this is going to have implications for the rest of the map. Currently, we have the players in the backline for the Western team, specifically Tekla, who is now going to be incredibly vulnerable to this attack that's coming out from the combined arms of Tifion and Mono Clutter. Or Mono Colder. It's very strange names. That is huge. We do have a ton of those Tech 3 units now coming up to try and deal with this push coming out from Mono Colder. That is huge on the southern side for the Eastern team. The Western team looked like they had a very strong position in this game until that happened.
They had a very strong position until they didn't.
Exactly. What happened to that giant robot we saw earlier? It's now starting to push on the north up towards the base of Ram This, which previously belonged to another player, I believe. And yeah, Ram This gonna be under heavy pressure thanks to that Juggernaut. It cannot scale this wall, but it can definitely walk up the path, and it has some long-range weaponry to help out, but that Tachyon Accelerator going to get some good damage on it as it does walk up very slowly.
Tekla's base is gone at this point.
Yeah, Tekla on the other side is falling apart, and the southern side of the map has become the Eastern team's domain. And the northern team trying to fight back by sending that Juggernaut to the northern side, trying to do the same, but it just doesn't seem like they have the same force behind it, as this large force out of Mono Coulter just doesn't have a response from the enemy team. They're taking so much damage over here, and they're really not dishing any back onto their opposition. They do, of course, have the units coming out from Deepak, and those are going to be able to clean this up eventually, but all of the infrastructure that was here is now gone. And that is super unfortunate now for this Western team. Tekla has his comm currently cloaked and is in a very, this is what I'd call a precarious situation. D-Gun?
Oh, that's what you call a Bernie Sanders situation right there. He's like talking to his teammates.
For some reason, I thought that these Kanganeths out from Deepak were going to attack Tekla.
No, they're not going to do that.
I got the colors confused, everybody, but that is pretty much that attack wrapped up, but it did what it needed to do, and now Tifion and Monoculture can focus their units towards the middle, and the middle is already having trouble holding. We saw so many units built up over here that are just no longer, but the Juggernaut on the other side has achieved a similar result as it's starting to push in towards more of Ram This's base and has completely destroyed this upper cliff base. And now with some pawns showing up, or grunts showing up to help, it does seem that 661 has found a successful attack on this northern side. Ram This gonna run away with the commander and abandon his base as it is almost assuredly gonna die. Shotgun blast coming out from that Juggernaut. And a second one has now been completed in the middle for 661. He's trying to take the game back into his own hands. We still don't see any of that large tech coming out from the Eastern team, but they are making it work with their lower tech units. And it's a beautiful display of carnage and violence on the screen for you today.
You might say it's a vulgar display of power.
Yeah. I'm sure that's a reference that I'm not getting, though.
It is a reference.
Listen, I got my Joker reference. I'm 1 for 1 on references we both get. Oh.
Any Pantera fans in the comments, make sure that you give Willow a hard time for that one.
You can give me a hard time for Doctor Who. Any other references he's made that have just gone unnoticed by me, give me a hard time. We also have those units you were talking about earlier. Vanguards now showing up onto the scene. These plasma cannons that get to walk around and just be very annoying. But this Juggernaut, it's taken a lot of hits, but it doesn't seem to care. It does live up to its name so far, as in the middle, it's just trying to hold things together for the Western team.
Yeah, you're starting to see Razorbacks as well as Vanguards coming out, even Catapults now coming out from Monoculture down at the bottom. And this is looking really precarious now for the Eastern team after the loss of the entire southern half of their map.
But we have to keep eyes on this northern side because something very similar has happened. Ram This has lost so much territory, and now we're looking at Valyria, and I just don't see what Valyria can do to stop this Juggernaut. They just don't have an answer for the Juggernaut on the northern side.
Yeah, I'm looking, and I was expecting, so we do have an advanced aircraft plant out from Teffion, and he could fire up a bunch of the either hailstorms or lassos or the dragons, which are the heavy flying fortress. I think he has the eco for it, and that would definitely stop the Juggernaut in its tracks. It's essentially a broadsword rush on an experimental.
Could you give us an economic update on that overall mass disparity? Has it changed at all? Or metal
that is
disparity?
narrowed quite a bit. So we are at just tipping over 1 million there for the red team, and then now just tipping over 1 million for the blue team. So really a hair's breadth between the two of them.
It's been a 42-minute slog. The Eastern team looked dire for the first about 30 minutes of that, but the last 10 minutes have just been immaculate for this Eastern team, but they do still need to come up with a solution, and I like your idea of using air to deal with an experimental. It works in FAF. I know they're not called experimentals here. Or are they? What is it called? Experimental assault pod.
The Juggernaut is an experimental assault pod. It still works.
The experimentals in FAF very much so handle, air is always a good option, and would love to see Tifion come up with something similar here to deal with that. But of course, this Juggernaut still just getting so much value now, pushing in towards the base of Onidara. And the middle, though, collapsing in front of our eyes as currently the Juggernaut is doing its best, but Monoculter and Tifion just doing so well. But Tifion's calm, walking forward, comes up. I think it de-gunned that Juggernaut, but there's another one right behind it. And Tifion down to half HP, but that is a trade I think he'd be willing to make. Calm for a Juggernaut right now seems very good if he does need to make that trade. I'm going to repair that commander up to full in no time. And the Juggernaut's going to be able to push forward here in the middle. And the Western team does seem to be stabilizing. They still need to deal with this attack coming out towards the south of their bases from Monoculter. But that is not nearly as scary as the Juggernauts. And that Juggernaut going down to another D-gun, I believe. Tifion double kill with the commander there. And the Juggernaut on the northern side has also fallen to something. Not quite sure what, but it is no longer existing. So that's 3 Juggernauts going down in the space of a minute. And that's going to be huge as the base that was building them now for 661 has been dispatched by the units of Onidara. So Team West has just seemingly collapsed here in the 11th hour. And I don't see a comeback currently. They just don't have the units on the field to just deal with the overwhelming production that their opponents have managed to throw together.
Yeah, so DPAC does have a base on this northern, or on the southern plateau. And Jysco is still putting pressure. It would be good for Jysco to try and move a construction bot into the northern plateau that has now been evicted. I can't remember the player name.
Vacated.
Used to occupy that.
Ramthis
yeah.
Is the last one, and then there was a player before that, but he was only in the game for a minute.
Yeah, so Ramthis, former plateau as well as area, it'd be good for Jysco to be able to get in there. And Tella now is into Razorback production, which is really, really good, but there are a lot of Vanguards on the front line. I think might be a little bit too little too late at this point. We'll see what he can pull off.
We also have bombers coming out from Tifion that are just wrecking the base of Joysco. Oh no, it's a disastrous hailstorm strategic bombers come in. That's going to be a lot of power and construction turrets going down immediately. And it seems as though Tifion has presented the opposition with a problem they cannot solve. But there's also a ton of hailstorms now out from Joysco, not Jasco, who could try and get some damage done, but it still, yet again, feels like too little, too late. Although neither side seems as though they've claimed they've heard a bell, both sides still fighting tooth and nail. It just seems as though the game has slipped out of the hands, though, of the Western team as a Juggernaut now dons the purple armor and walks forward for Monoculter. Oh, there's also a Juggernaut for Tifion, in case anybody was, like, counting.
So Jysco, I think Jysco needs to get some fighters up because he's got a lot of these heavy strategic bombers, but there's a good fighter screen out from Tifion. So needs to get some air control back. Like, air control looks different in this game. Air control is kind of just denying your opponent the ability to impact land damage. It doesn't really look like these long dives with hundreds of ASF over enemy SAMs that we see in FAF.
Yeah.
So we've got all these strategic bombers. I'm trying to think of a way that he can use them. Like, he could go for the comm, but that's not really a game-winning strategy, I don't think.
It doesn't address the main issue, which is the armies. You have to kill the armies.
Yeah.
As a bunch of units now walk in, these Razorbacks walking in for Onidara, and they're just gonna remove what was left of 661. And now we have reached checkmate, I believe. All of these units coming out from the Eastern team are about to just roll over the bases. I'm gonna speed up the game as that massive explosion as Joysko's comm goes up in flames. And we're down to 2 comms versus 4. It's Tella's comm and Talco's comm, I believe. Oh, he left the game. Or Tekla. So 2 commanders left. They just have to be hunted down, or maybe we can see a self-destruct out of either player. Blow this down a little bit. Getting a bit laggy for my taste. But, of course, GG's all around. I think Tifion and Mono Coulter played an amazing game along with Onidara. Not to mention Deepak O doing very well in the middle, as well as Joysko and 661. But in the end, when the dust settles, Tifion with that overwhelming economy still gonna end the game with most metal produced at over 500,000. His closest competitor only at 380,000. And those attacks early on the southern side that really crippled the efforts coming out from the western team just seemed to be too much.
Yeah, I mean, losing that long-range artillery on the plateau was really crippling for the Western team's ability to fight Tifion. Just having that long-range artillery there allows them to kind of exclude the southern side of the map. But I think that as far as how this game went, you know, I think the rear players got a little bit comfortable. I was gonna say, yeah, complacent, comfortable. Yeah, I mean, they definitely had the eco to go for experimental gantry, get some Razorbacks out, and we did see Tella doing that a little bit later, but I think it was just a little bit too little, too late. MVP for the West team, I think, definitely goes to Deepak. In my book, at least. I don't know about you.
It's a toss-up between Deepak and 661. I think that the Juggernaut call was huge, and if his team on the southern side could have held out a little bit longer, those Juggernauts would have been much more impactful. But Deepak also played an amazing game, and you know, I'm gonna give it to Deepak because he built sumos.
Because he built some units.
He built sumos. I like sumos.
Sumos.
Yes. He built my trash can buddies.
The trash can. He built the Daleks.
And we're just waiting.
Destroy the Doctor.
We're waiting for the comm of 661 to go down. It seems it's been found. Almost looks like it's off the map currently if you look at it at the right angle. I mean, technically it has 1 foot off the map. It's an honor thing. He can't just walk away. The commander of both of these commanders being controlled by 661. He's just trying to delay the game, I guess. And yeah, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please go check out the Duelist channel. He is an amazing caster and content creator for these styles of simulated projectile RTS. He's made more bar content than me, and of course he makes a lot of FAF content as well. And keep an eye out, because I think we will be doing a collaboration soon on his channel, where I'll be going over to his channel and talking on something or other. And yeah, you all are beautiful. Thank you to the channel members who support the channel and get access to every video early. Thank you to the patrons who support me over on that site. You all are oh so beautiful. And this is Willow signing off. Anything you want to say, Duelist?
Yeah, whenever we are on my channel, I'm going to give you a list of movies and music that you need to watch and or listen to, so you get my references.
I might do it. I'm a busy person. I recently started watching anime. I'm sorry, my docket's full. All right.
I don't actually watch anime, but anyway, sorry.
This is Willow and the Duelist signing off.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the